Okej, zdaje się, że ja rozpocznę cykl wystąpień w języku angielskim. Jest w ogóle ktoś... Is there anyone not understanding Polish? Okej. Właśnie się zastanawiam, czy nie zrobić po polsku, ale już slajdy są po angielsku i powiedziałem, że będzie po angielsku, więc chyba się będę tego trzymał. W razie czego mogę, jak coś będzie niejasne, mogę dopowiedzieć, czy na końcu może być pytania po polsku. I tak będzie chyba najlepiej. So let's get started. So team architecture, monolith, microservices, or something else, and how to design a collaborative team. It doesn't matter if you're a team member or a leader. You have impact on how you're working within your team, basically. And many Paralegend starts with, oh no, who I am, and so oh, there are so many titles. You are doing that. You're a senior. You're a principal. You done this. You done that. You have a lot of certificates, but we love certificates in IT. However, there's issue with those titles. They don't say if it's nice to work with me. It doesn't say if I'm friendly. It doesn't say if I'm a good colleague. So those titles might be totally useless. In modern times, when we are working remotely, what people want most is to have a good working atmosphere, good working environment. So while we love the titles, they are not saying who we are and what we do. And let's start from system architecture, as I promised, and then we go to the place where we would discuss what to do to not look at the titles, but to have a good working environment. So, quick recap from a system architecture. There are systems which are modular or not. There's monolithic, distributed or not. Microservices, two completely separate things. Just quick look on the architecture. Yeah. So when we look at the standard system architecture, there are monoliths, which are very, very well built component, one big, sometimes black box, which work perfectly, especially if you don't look inside, because maybe sometimes it's not worth looking inside. And there's one database, one knowledge, and so on and so on. That's the architecture, yeah, but there's some minuses, of course. There are some cons. It's hard to modify such monolith, and it's complicated if you want to change something with a regression testing. If I change one component, what exactly is going to change? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's better not to touch it. And on the other hand, we have microservices. Microservices, so this new brand, fancy things, they are very, very good because they can work separately from the other components, and it's quite easy to modify them, add new component and so on. However, if we add new components, there might be a chaos. There might be a lot of microservices talking to each other. Everyone talks, no one listens. So it's more like I have to say this, I have to say that, and so on and so on. The more microservices we have, the harder it is to communicate between themselves. It's easier to fail. And how this translates to team architecture? So let's get an example of a team as a monolith. So how a team as a monolith would look like? It's more or less like an old guard. People who know each other even before the COVID. They know about their personal lives, not only about the work lives. They stick together. They go together to lunches. They go together to beer. They are very good old pals, and that works pretty well. However, team as monolith have some issues as well. It's quite hard to scale. If you have a bunch of really good friends, then adding another person to that team might be really complicated. It might be quite hard to get to notice by the team, to impress the team. Even if you, for example, have one team member liking you, then if you do something wrong, others might not like you, and the information about, oh, he did something wrong can spread quite quickly, unfortunately. So it's quite hard to scale such team, especially adding new members. And often it's like, the team works the solution perfectly. So if you're external and you want to change something, no, we know it better. Don't touch it. It works. Don't touch it. That's how a lot of teams are working. And finally, they have some shared responsibility for the solution, which is super, super good because they are working as a team. However, there are some issues like if one person decides to do some shortcuts, some quick solution, others don't take responsibility for that. That's more or less as a team as monolith looks like, and we had a lot of team as monoliths with pre-COVID times, pre-remote working times. That was working really well, and most of us has worked in such team. But COVID has happened. Remote work has exploded. We all are super, super happy with this remote work. And we very quickly, like with cloud coming in, a lot of companies said let's try microservices. So those are so super. Multiple teams became more like microservices team. So each person is a separate microservice. We are unique, and that's true. And that's quite good that we have noticed that people have different strengths, different weaknesses, are completely different. So that's the good thing. However, it's also easy to add a new person, but not because we are so open and honest and super, let's welcome 5 more new developers, let's meet new colleagues. It's more like we are working remotely and we don't care that much about other team members often. Like, okay, who's working in my team? There was this guy, one from India, there's one from Mexico, I don't know his name. Yeah, and there's one more from Katowice, I think. But I'm not sure. He was moved to other project or not? That's the reality, how it works these days. And so communication, integration, and synchronization might be quite issue, especially if team grows. So we are doing MVP, small team, we are working together well, and then we need to expand and adding new team members, and then things goes not as we love. It's like, oh, this new guy doing something. Oh, the other person doesn't know our procedures. We do not do things that way here, and so on and so on. The more people we're adding, the communication, integrations, and synchronization are becoming really, really an issue. And finally, in such cases, accountability is often for our own work. So I have received some portion of work, I'm doing that work, and I am accountable for that work, but what the other team members are doing, that's not my job. That's often what's happening because we had remote working coming, and it wasn't fully planned. It was more like explosion. It was just happened, and we kind of jumped to the situation, and we all wanted remote working. But is the new situation in where everyone knows some piece of code but doesn't know the whole? Is it a really better situation to what we had previously? And I believe that it's the remote work supposed to be our holy grail, but something went wrong. We kind of lost the feeling that we are working as a one team, something which we had in the monolith times. But it's not because we, as regular employees, I would say specialist experts or starting leaders, done something wrong. It's, in my opinion, it often kind of an issue coming from management and leadership, because there was this feeling that, okay, so here you have, we were supposed to use synchronous communication because we were in one office, we were talking to each other, and so on and so on. Now when we were remotely, it was like, okay, so you have these asynchronous communication tools, you have Slack, Teams, whatsoever. You're in different countries, just use it as you like. There are no rules, just do the stuff. You were doing that in the office, so just do the stuff as you were similar way when you were working remotely. But that doesn't work because we were not having place and time for that. So we had lunches together. We were going to some beers together, and what often management is doing is like, oh, the guys won't be going for lunches. They will have extra time for work. That's awesome. And that turns out not to be so awesome after 2 years, because we seen that we lost some bonds between people. It's not like we have get some extra time. We have lost a way to communicate between each other and to know what's happening in the other areas of the project with what other people. So we also said, okay, we respect your privacy, don't turn cameras, we don't need you, you just be on the call, and it's more important what you say than we see you. But there are some situations like when companies are saying we are so open and super company, we are showing pay ranges, salary ranges, but during the recruitment we are not showing our faces because maybe we don't want you to see us before you join. I mean, that's clearly something wrong, that you don't know the people who you're working with. You just hear some voices, and often you don't even hear voices but see text. So maybe this could be replaced by bots. Maybe we don't need people at all. That's the direction. And we kind of also assume that everyone's the same, have the same infrastructure at home, same space at home, same desk, same chair, and everything's pretty well that anyone can work from home and be super effective. There is Stanford made some experiment in China before COVID. They showed during the experiment that remote working can increase productivity by 13%. That's awesome. But there were a lot of planned activities happening to achieve that result. And in majority of the cases, what we've done with companies, we haven't planned the remote working. We just let it happen and, have the shiny tools, play with it, and be productive. Thank you very much, and I'm going home. That's the end of the leadership which we often had. So effectively, instead of Holy Grail, we had like a comedy, which is not so holy, and it's not as that funny as it's supposed to be, because even the feedback loops which were happening in the office, oh, you done that correctly, you done that, the other part you done quite wrongly. It's like, okay, let's have a quarterly meeting, a performance meeting every quarter, maybe every half year, or in fact, it's so boring, maybe once a year. And then you don't know if you are doing the work correctly, if you're doing fine or not, if people are happy, and so on and so on. So there's a lot of issues happening because the remote work has happened, but it happened without any planning. So there will be a question, okay, so what should I do? Should I quit working remotely? And that's not the solution. That's definitely not the solution. We just need some better look on the architecture. And we said that there is, distributed and there's modular approach, but maybe let's see what's in the other boxes. And there's modular monolith, a situation where we could try to look at, and a distributed monolith, the situation which we maybe don't want to look at, but that's on system architecture and how that team architecture would look like. Maybe like that. Maybe, are we working remotely? Yes or no? Or are we disconnected in our teams? Yes or no? So maybe I don't want to be disconnected with my team members, and maybe I want to work remotely. So, there will be, how to go to this hybrid, how to go to this modular monolith and work independently using the good things from the microservices and cooperating constantly. So taking the good things from the monolith times. So let me try with some 5 quick advices how to join that and what might work. So remote and shared lunches to talk about private life. That's what's exactly I'm doing for last 2 years in my team. Each week we have a Tuesday 1 p.m. We're turning on cameras, we're bringing food, drinks, and we're talking about things which has happened or which we are planning, about our private life, about our plans, about our vacation. And a lot of managers would say, oh, you're wasting 1 hour of a teammate. That's so horrible. Why you are doing that? But what's the effect in my team, for example? And because of the quite big transformation happening in my company, most departments has lost 20% of staff. Not because those guys were fired, but because there was no information where we were going. There was, lack of transparency. What will happen next? People were afraid and people were leaving. Around 20% per team left. So from my team, no one has left because they felt that we are working together. We know each other. We know what we hope for. We know what are our plans. We know how we want to develop. We know exactly the people who are we working with. And that's exactly the role of these remote lunches, to stay together, to be together. Let me move to another example. So the whole team can work on the rules, how we work together, how we communicate, how we talk about difficulties. So as an example, a lot of people think that if you are coming to the office, then you can not do anything about what's going on. Oh, the boss says that this is the rule, so that's the rule. No, it's not like that. If you say about, okay, I have issues with that approach, then maybe we should change that approach. We have some team codex on what's fine, what's not fine, what's allowed, what's not allowed. If I have asynchronous communication coming in and replacing synchronous communication, and when I type someone to a friend or to a colleague asking for something, so if he's not replying, what that means? If he's not replying, is he ignoring me? Doesn't like me? Can I call him? Should I wait another hour? It's 4 p.m. Can I call him or maybe not? If we don't sit together and if we don't get our internal rules, there will be a lot of things like, oh yeah, he doesn't like me, he ignores me. Yeah, I need to do something with that. I will ignore him next time as well. That's a super plan. It's not super, of course. So when we are having those meetings, when we are enforcing our rules, it helps a lot to get the team working fine and team working really working. Then we give ourselves honest feedback with an intention. What does it mean? If I'll start and message to like, oh, have you done this fancy code, then what the person receiving such information might think? They might think, is he asking me because he's picky, he doesn't like the code? Or is he asking because he likes it? I don't know. Maybe he just want to show me I made some mistakes, and so on and so on. When I start with intention, say, hey, the project which we were doing, it got postponed because of a public holiday in India. So if you were working on that code, you still have some extra time to check it. If I start with an intention, what I want to achieve, then the communication starts to be really clear, and there's no issues with receiving it the way the person starting talking wanted. So we also give ourselves right to learn from mistakes. We give ourselves the ability to learn from the experience. So normally, if you haven't done something, it's obvious that sooner or later you will make a mistake. That works perfectly in a normal life, but in an IT, you need to do that, and it needs to be perfect for a first time. It doesn't matter that you are doing it for the first time because it's a new project. No, it must be perfect. And we are not allowing often ourselves to make mistakes. So doing the experiments is a part of learning curve. It's part of getting the curiosity into work. And curiosity is one of the strongest motivation to stay at the work. I have still something to discover. I still have something to learn. I want to know how it happened that it works or it doesn't work. We need to encourage more curiosity. The next thing, we actively help join new people. So I have this, my brother's working in a quite big IT company. And recently the project was closed. He was assigned to another project. And there, no one was asking him, what he should do next. No one was asking him, telling him where's the meeting. So he waited a week, and he asked, okay, where's the team? Where's the leader? Where's the meeting? Oh, yeah, you would be assigned to that person. We have sent him your contact details. They will contact you and invite you to the meeting. Next week, another one, 2 more, and nothing is happening. So my brother's asking again, I'm sitting here doing almost nothing. You are paying me. Tell me what's the project. You see, the project which you assigned it's disbanded. It never happened. You will be assigned to another project, and so on and so on. And those are ways how are even regular employees treated, switching from project to project. And it's even far worse with new people coming in. Oh, you're the new one. Yeah, that's fine. But I'm too busy. So, just hang along, and that's how a lot of companies are working. So ensuring that new people coming in would be onboarded correctly, would be receiving, for example, our copy of Team Codex, how we work, our values, how we communicate. Just a very simple things would help them to quickly get onto the team as a team member and not as just a mercenary who will switch jobs very quickly to the place where they will pay more. So what we also do, we are having some domain experts or leaders units who are building the communities. And the communities doesn't need to be work-oriented. In your company, it might be that you have a lot of people running, for example, and you might have a runners community or bicycling community or, some other football sports community, and you don't need to be a leader of a community for the community to exist and for some team members in the work to know each other, to work together, and to be happy that they have good working environment and that they have people who can they speak to and who can they rely on. And internal communication about the communities. So often, people who are working longer time know exactly, oh yeah, we have this community, there are some DevOps guys community, there are some SQL community, there are some soccer community, but new people coming in, they have no idea. So there should be a place where they can find, oh yeah, where I can belong. Because the feeling of belonging to a company, belonging to communities, one of the most interesting motivation from the internal motivation, from internal motivation, which means quite much more effective than external ones. Finally, the fifth thing, let's give people the option to see the whole picture. It's very similar to the C4 architecture, starting with context, starting with a big picture, and going to the details, then going to the code. So if someone's working on a portion of code, they should know how does it impact the whole, how does it help, or what it will change, maybe how the customer will use it, and so on and so on. So showing the big picture is very much important, and it also helps to have everyone understanding the role of others, and if the others are sick or ill or absent, we can replace them because we understand that we're building the whole big cathedral and not just putting up blocks one on each other and, whoever pays more, I will put the blocks there. So, and you might think, Yeah, but those are quite interesting, but does it translate to anything? We love data and so on. So I decided to search for a good report, and there's the new report on why people are staying, what motivates people in IT beyond salary, done by Awerson, and the question was, why did you stay in a company for more than a year? So why you wanted to work in that company? And of course, salary was the main one. That's quite obvious. But atmosphere, remote work, work-life balance, at least those three things are things which you can impact. So basically, staying in one place, liking to work in one place, is at least in 40% dependent on yourself, on your action, on how you communicate with team members, and how you say, guys, I want to have a better team, and let's talk about it. Let's not hide in just behind the turn of cameras. Let's say, yeah, I think we can do better. I think I want to like the place which I'm working with. So, yeah, that was the quick info. And basically, we also always have the option to choose which one works for us. I'm not saying that the hybrid model which I mentioned is the best for everyone. No, not at all. But I'm saying that if we do it intentionally, we think about, how can the work environment look like in which I would love to work, then we can modify it, then we can change it to the situation which will suit me, and I will be happy working with colleagues. And that would be it. It was very quick, I know, but if you have any questions, then I'm happy to answer them.